Minnesota travels to Champaign, Illinois as road favorites by a field goal. The Gophers playing fantastic football. Max Brosmer looks like a dang good quarterback. Luke Altmaier has looked like a pretty dang good quarterback in most games that he's played in this year. These are two teams that Illinois, I thought, was going to exceed their win total. I thought that Illinois was a pretty good football team. I like what they have. I like that the personnel that they brought in to fix what Aaron Henry was trying to do last year. I think they have the personnel to do that this year. And Minnesota, I mean, they've been talking about the quarterback problem, right, for a couple years now, ever since that 2019 season with Tanner Morgan. And it feels like they fixed it. And unfortunately, they only get him for, 1 year? And Max Brosmer has been pretty lights out here. You're still worried about some of that front seven issues. The linebackers played better last week than maybe they have in previous weeks. This is a really, really interesting matchup, and I think Minnesota is sort of ascending at the right time, and I understand why they're favorites. It is a team, though, that I have a hard time taking on the road to go win a game against what I think is a pretty all right football team. It's a pretty all right football team. So we'll see what Minnesota is able to do. CD, what are your keys to the game right here for both these teams?
Running the football. This is Big Ten West. We're forgetting about that. Yes, I know Altmaier's been playing well. Obviously, I think Pat Bryant's battling injuries right now. Hopefully, him and Franklin can go. But and I know, like you said, Max Brosmer has been playing really, really good football. They got a couple pretty good weapons there, especially Daniel Jackson and Darius Taylor. You know, the receiving threat out of the backfield. But let's not kid ourselves here. You have to be able to run the football and stop the run to still give yourself good chances to win games, especially on the road if you're Minnesota. That is something they have struggled with. They have struggled to stop the run. They did a really good job against Maryland this past weekend out of the bye against Roman Hemby and a pretty good offense there for Maryland. Didn't let Billy Edwards really get going on the ground either. But we've seen for most of this year, the identity of Minnesota's defense has been that secondary. They've played really good football, but that front seven has struggled, and they got a little bit healthier after the bye week, and they came out playing really good football. I do think this offense line from Illinois a little bit better. I do think this offense, can be a little bit more explosive and dangerous, especially on the ground for Illinois, and that's what concerns me for Minnesota. And if you can't run the ball, because they really haven't. I mean, Darius Taylor had a big run against Maryland. Outside of that, it has been pretty inefficient the past couple weeks, again, running the football for Minnesota, which is a surprise, especially with that big, beefy offensive line. In pass pro, they've been really good. If they keep Max Brosmer upright, they have a chance to win this football game for sure. But it would help if you could give him some kind of aid, right? Get Marcus Major going on the ground. Get Darius Taylor going on the ground. Get him above 20 carries, because to me, that's what you're going to have to need, I think, to win this football game. The way I see it, though, I think Illinois gets a win here. Brett Bielema has owned PJ Fleck. He has owned Minnesota for a long time now. They still haven't beaten Illinois since Brett Bielema's gotten there, and maybe you could say they're due, and maybe they are. And we'll see what happens there. But I think we're kind of, not that Illinois shouldn't be ranked. Who really cares, right? It'll solve itself, right? I think this week for sure, but you look at their losses there, and it's Penn State, who's top 3 team. It's Oregon, who's number 1 team in the country on the road there, and they just got jumped on last week. And when it's a significant talent advantage like that, and Oregon comes out and plays well, and you got to credit them. You just tip your hat. Okay, game's over. Let's move on to Minnesota this week. And I think Illinois does that. I think they bounce back, even if Pat Bryant can't go. It sounds like he'll give them as much as he can. I don't know if it's going to be every down, as much as he can do, but yeah, I don't know. I like Illinois here. +3 is crazy.
Uh,
It moved. It opened at 2.5 for Illinois. It's moved a full 5 points, 5.5 points.
Yeah, I wonder why that is. I wonder if there's like an injury that I'm not seeing here, but
a lot of money's coming in on Minnesota.
The Gophers. I'm looking at this, dude, though, and I am sneakily liking the way that Minnesota has played defense the last couple weeks. And if they're able to get, do some damage to the air, they're multiple on their offensive side. Like they're not one dimensional like they have been in past years. I kind of like Minnesota in this spot. Not enough to, put on my best bets or anything. I'll take Minnesota. And I'll actually lay them -3 in terms of our picks. here because when you get a quarterback that's playing that good and he's hot, and you have a wide receiver like Daniel Jackson, in my opinion, this is not everyone's opinion, is the best player on the field when he is in the game in this football game. I know people are going to talk about Gabe Hawkins, and I think he's unbelievable. All right, people are going to talk about Iriante Ursary, right? You know, the left tackle from Minnesota is really good. People are going to talk about Darius Taylor, all right? I just have this narrative that I need to push that Daniel Jackson is so unbelievably good, and he has been held back year over year over year by not having a good quarterback. If you go back and watch Daniel Jackson, he's an elite route runner. He has elite body control. He has elite awareness of where he is on the field. He has elite hands. He's the full package in every single way. And now you're seeing Elijah Spencer take off, the transfer from Charlotte last year, and he looks good all of a sudden. You have a nice red zone threat in Jameson Gears, and not to mention one of the better running backs in the entire Big Ten. I like the Gophers right here. They're playing too well right now. I can't fade them. I know preseason, I loved their under on their win total, and I took it pretty confidently actually. But now with Max Brosmer playing what he is, I can't ignore that. So give me the Gophers -3.
Listen, you just gave me goosebumps there. As a Minnesota fan, I'm with you, and we've been talking about Daniel Jackson on the show, off the show for a long time now. And what's also held him back is nobody else around him has stepped up. It has been a one-man show for a long time. I think back to the Iowa game last year, even in a win, right? He was the only wide receiver with a catch, and he was over 100 yards against Cooper DeJean, against that secondary back there. It was incredible. But now Brosmer not only goes through his progressions, but he puts the ball so accurately. Also, Daniel Jackson's run off the catch is really underrated too. I think some of those hidden yardage where you see, especially Minnesota's offense, you get these deep overs, you get these quick slants. And if you hit him in stride and you run off the catch, that's what makes this offense so dangerous. Once they start really humming and they're getting chunk play, and they can go with tempo there. Yeah, I think Max Brosmer, what is he? Top 4 quarterback right now in the Big
In the Big
Ten.
Ten.
I mean, you've
I'd have to
got
think about that.
I'll go Will Howard. I'll go Dylan Gabriel. In whatever order you want. Dylan Gabriel, Will Howard, Curtis Rourke probably, and then
There, it's a toss-up.
when Aiden Childs is playing well, it's best maybe Will Rogers if you want. But I think whatever Will Rogers gives you, I think
Miller
Brosmer.
Moss is probably up
Oh,
there.
okay, so top 5, but I think top 5 is freaking amazing compared to where Minnesota has been for a long time in the Big Ten. There, yeah. Listen, I hope you're right, selfishly, but I just Illinois is a big hump for Minnesota. It's been like that for a while.
It's a game that they don't normally win. They've struggled against Illinois too the last couple of years.
And they struggle on the line of scrimmages like every single time. And Illinois' offensive line is better this year than it's been, I think, in a couple of years. I think this defensive line,
It's still good.
They're kind of turning a corner. Even
Gabe Hawkins looks unreal. Like if there was a player that I'd say is better than Daniel Jackson, that's on the field at the same time as Daniel Jackson, it could be. It's probably Gabe Hawkins, but I just can't get over how good Daniel Jackson's been playing. And Illinois fans are going to be like, oh, Pat Bryant and Zakari Franklin. Dude, those guys are unbelievable wide receivers. I'm just telling you to watch how good. And now you got some good cornerbacks over there. Whoever that matchup is going to be with Daniel Jackson, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be fireworks. And especially the way that Illinois wants to play defense, it's tough to contain a guy like Daniel Jackson, when you're playing a lot of press man, right? When he's just so good at getting off that line of scrimmage, even with as slender as he is.
You saw, look at a slender guy, Tez Johnson. Look what he did last week. Obviously, different offense, obviously, different caliber of just offense, your gaming plan. So it's not only just Daniel Jackson, but that's what makes this Minnesota offense a little bit different. Terrence Brooks, though, it sounds like he's coming back to practice. I know he hasn't been amazing this year, but he could be a boost, right? And he's a talented kid, veteran guy from Texas. If he comes back in the lineup, whatever helps, I think, right now for Illinois, because they are pretty banged up, especially on the defensive side.